Welcome to the empowering world of Ladies Who Leap podcast, where brave souls share their remarkable journeys of venturing beyond their comfort zones to craft lives filled with passion and purpose. Tune in to hear the awe-inspiring tales of individuals who dared to defy their fears and embrace the unknown, paving the way for a future they truly adore. Welcome to the Ladies Who Leap podcast. Hi, welcome to Ladies Who Leap podcast. My guest today is Tamara-Nicole Gardner. She's a former attorney, author, speaker, and soul-aligned entrepreneur. After years of living a life that looked successful on the outside but left her spiritually deleted, and she embarked on a journey of deep reinvention. Her signature 12 guiding stars system was born from that transformation, blending her analytical mind with her intuitive heart. Today, she teaches her system to others with a special focus on empowering women in midlife to redesign their lives to reflect who they truly are, not who they've been conditioned to be. Her work resonates with readers drawn to personal growth, conscious living, and intuitive life design, especially those seeking clarity, courage, and a meaningful next chapter. Welcome, Tamara. Am I saying your name right? Tamara?
Tamara.
Tamara. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Welcome to Ladies Who Leap podcast. Everything I just read totally resonated with me. I'm
Oh, good.
sure a lot of the listeners, because when we get to a certain age, we start realizing that we've done a lot of the shoulds, and now we'd like to do what it is that we were meant to do in life, right? So,
Yep.
and it's something that it doesn't happen in our younger years sometimes. If it does, God bless you. I mean, I feel really happy for you. If you've been able to find your true calling early in life, that's fantastic. Those of us that are older, sometimes it takes until we're older and retired or just kind of stop getting off that wheel, right? That wheel of work and just continuing to work just to make the money. I'd like to start with childhood.
Okay.
So, was there someone or something that influenced you in your younger years and helped shape your focus of what you're doing as an adult?
Yeah, I think that my mother had significant influence on me. So, growing up, my father was in construction, and I grew up in Buffalo, where the winters are not very nice sometimes. So, he spent a lot of time laid off in the winter. And my mother was a secretary. So, between myself, my brother and sister, there's three kids, and my mother would be supporting all of us on a secretary's wage. And I never saw her allow herself to be in a victim mindset over that or collapse under the weight of that. I always saw her being very resourceful and creative, and I can fix any problem. I'm going to figure this out. And I do tell this story in my book about one particular instance that stood out to me where my brother wanted to take guitar lessons. My parents had a small farm. They couldn't afford guitar lessons for him monetarily, so my mother took vegetables out of the garden and used those to pay for his guitar lessons. And today he composes for major symphonies. So, that wound up that moment of saying, you know what, I'm gonna figure it out. I know that I can do this. That has yielded a beautiful result for my brother growing up. So she always taught me not to collapse under your circumstances. You're going to figure it out. And that continues to resonate with me today.
Wow, what a great lesson and what a great story. My gosh, to think that it all started from that simple act from your mom. That's fantastic. And you've taken several, this is Ladies Who Leap, so you've taken several
Yeah.
leaps in life. Can you start with that first leap? I believe it might have been leaving the toxic marriage. And where did you get the courage to take that leap?
Yeah. So I got married for the first time, been divorced twice, married three times now, third time's a charm. But the first one, I was very young and just barely 20 years old and had only been seeing this guy for a few months, and I got pregnant. And at that time in my life, there was a lot of pressure from his family, in particular, very religious upbringing, and put a lot of pressure on us that this has happened, so now you must get married. Like that is the solution. And I, at that age, didn't have the wherewithal to really think, what do I actually want for myself? I'm just going to kind of get swept up in this is what I'm quote unquote supposed to do, settle down and play house. He was never physically abusive to me, but very psychologically manipulative, and found out years later that he has narcissistic personality disorder. So that's something I had to go through with him, but eventually did make the choice to leave. And it was sort of a dramatic moment. Like it wasn't an easy breakup because of his approach to the situation, right? So when you're dealing with a narcissist, they want to control everything. They want it to go their way. So it was a bit of a struggle. And I wound up in a safe house for women at the advice of when you get divorced in New York State, it's standard procedure to have a psychological evaluation for both parents. We underwent that. The evaluator called me and said, I don't think you and your children are safe. This man's obsessively in love with you. I'm afraid of what he might do if he cannot possess you. So she recommended that we go to the safe house. We did that. So, for listeners who are not familiar with what that experience is like, for your own safety, there are bars on the windows. You have to check in, like you are in a secure location. But for me, as I put my children to bed and observed those bars on the windows, it was like a concrete manifestation of imprisonment. And I made a conscious choice in that moment that I was no longer going to be afraid of him. And because what was the difference? Either I'm going to be in prison in here or out there. And I'm just going to leave and I am going to be resourceful and figure this out. So I walked out the door. I only spent a night there. Walked out the door the next morning and, went through many years of going back and forth with him. He sued me 11 times vindictively. Um, but it was a process and it was a journey. And I think the leap was worth it for me because what I have learned in my upbringing and through that experience is that adversity can be a gift if you allow it to be. It did take me many years to stop resisting and kicking and screaming the lessons that the universe was inviting me to learn. But one night I finally did what's called a cord cutting ceremony and released any past soul contract that we might have had together. And after I performed that ceremony, I never heard from him again. And I was able to move forward with my life.
Wow, that is powerful. I don't know if anyone understands the idea of energy and how we are all connected in some way to it. And so that cord cutting, wow, that's pretty profound. And I do want to say to the listeners who are possibly in a situation like that, if you need to stay in a safe house, please stay there. I mean, I don't
Oh,
want,
yes, absolutely.
yeah, I think that your situation, you made that conscious decision and that decision to leap in that way, and that worked out well for you. It's not necessarily, I mean, there are places like that specifically to help protect the children and wives of people of husbands that are not
Yes,
safe for them.
absolutely.
And that took a lot of courage just to walk out the next morning. Where did that come from?
I think that it was really seeing those bars on the windows and looking at my children in the bed in that moment. I call it my Scarlett O'Hara moment because if you're familiar with Gone with the Wind, Scarlett O'Hara has this moment where she's standing on the plantation. She has like a single carrot in her hand, and she's like, "As God is my witness, I will never be hungry again." And I just found this fire within me like, this is not going to be my life. This is unacceptable. I refuse to allow this to happen. And that just surged within me that there was a certain standard that I was going to set for myself, and I wasn't going to allow my life to fall below that standard. So it came from within, the courage to make that move.
Yeah. Now, you've had other hardships in your life, and I believe you are allowing yourself to be vulnerable enough to take those experiences, write and speak about them openly, and help others as a result. What is one of those hardships that you've actually turned into a positive message to be able to help others?
Well, I think the whole experience of going through the damaged, broken, dysfunctional relationship with my ex-husband is probably one of the most significant life lessons for me. It taught me a lot about being resourceful. It taught me a lot about being resilient. It taught me a lot about appreciating that the other person is a human being and he has his own brokenness. It taught me a lot about focusing on where my priorities were as far as understanding that I could still be a good mother and care for my children even despite this situation. I would learn how to work around him. So there are so many valuable lessons that came out of that for me. And I do hear a lot from women, particularly in midlife. We're making a lot of transition. There are physical transitions, physical changes in our body. There's a lot of change with maybe children leaving the home or maybe taking care of elderly parents, things you've never done before. And in the midst of that, a lot of women choose to get divorced. It's a very common experience in midlife, and it's not, I want to emphasize that it's not failure. I think we've been taught to believe that your marriage has quote unquote failed. Your marriage hasn't failed. You're just experiencing change. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think, at the top of our conversation, what you had talked about, I think the only constant in life is change, right? Like we're not ever really meant to necessarily find a calling in the moment, but accept and appreciate that what you feel called to do is going to change throughout the seasons of your life.
That's a really good point to make because shifting and making those changes, again, it's not failure. It's learning how to be more in tune with yourself and with your heart and what it is that you want to do. And so you can shift and you can change. You can have several successful careers. You can have several successful passions in life and go from one to the next one. And the fact that you change and shift, it's okay. I love that. I like that message a lot. So you do focus on women in midlife. And let me just
Yeah.
stop for a second because I completely forgot to ask. You were an attorney. You started out as an attorney.
Yeah.
What kind of attorney?
Commercial real estate.
Oh, okay. And how long did you do that? When did you stop doing that?
So for my entire adult life, I've been in the commercial real estate space over 22 years. Now, because of my circumstances with being a single mom, it took me a long time to get my law degree, but I eventually did. So I've been a licensed attorney for the last 7 years. Left the corporate environment doing that just a few months ago and started picking up doing shifting more into doing full-time the personal development, speaking and classes and teaching and that sort of thing.
So we're getting you right on the cusp.
You are.
You making this change in your life, taking a huge leap to go from the attorney, being an attorney into doing this self-help type of work. And you do focus on women in midlife.
Yeah.
That's something I said it, and I'll say it again, a lot of these listeners are going to resonate with. So your book that you just released, right, this past year is called 12 Guiding Stars System. Can you give us more information on the structure and what you share in the book?
Sure. The 12 Guiding Stars system is basically a lifestyle design system to help you identify what your soul's desires are in 12 major categories of your life and to give you the practical steps to help you manifest that and have that be your concrete reality. The structure, and my cat is scratching a scratching post in the background if you hear noise. Um, I have two little fur babies. Um, the structure is based upon the 12 astrological houses. You don't have to be at all familiar with astrology to use the system. I just found it to be a framework that worked well because those houses are the key major areas of influence in your life, things like home and family, spirituality, your romantic relationship, career, etc. So I found it to be a nice framework to work within in identifying what you want in each of these categories and then working on moving you towards becoming the person who has actualized that lifestyle.
Interesting. So what would be, let's say, either an exercise or some questions within one of those categories to open up someone to understand what their calling is?
I think one of the major overarching questions that you can ask yourself is, what does freedom look like and feel like for me within this area of my life? Um, because so much of why we are disconnected from what we really desire, there might be a presumption that, well, don't I know what I want? Well, maybe not, because we have so much external influence that we believe that we may want one thing or another, just like I believed that I wanted to be an attorney for 20 years of my life. But things have shifted for me. There are parts of that that I love substantively, but I had to ask myself, what is it about it that I love? And it is helping people and guiding people through difficult situations in a strategic way. That's all transferable, but I don't have to be a lawyer to do those things, right? So ask yourself what freedom looks like. And that I think gets you down. I think that people are, by and large, they're seeking freedom. They're seeking freedom from the structure that they have been taught to want or desire, or that, all of the shoulds. And to help us move away from that, well, what would make you feel liberated? And you can ask that question in any of those 12 major categories and get some interesting results.
We'll be right back. What if the loudest voice in your head could become your biggest ally instead of your worst critic? I'm Lisa, founder of Ladies Who Leap Coaching and your podcast host, and I help you release the negative inner chatter and step into leadership with real confidence and emotional freedom. Together, we unravel those old patterns and rewire your inner dialogue so you can lead, love, and live from a place of deep self-love and unshakable confidence. If you're ready to fully trust your own power, let's talk. Go to ladieswholeap.com and click on the Let's Connect button to set up a call. And we'll talk about what's truly possible for you. Let's get back to the show. While you were talking, I was just thinking that women have always, most of our lives, we live for others. We think of
Yes,
what others want, what they need, and how we can give it to them with that sense of care. Most, I'm not saying every woman is like that, but most of us are. So to turn around and make the decision to put yourself first is sometimes difficult.
yeah.
And sometimes you need the support of someone. In fact, a lot of times you'll need a support of someone like you to be able to guide them along because it's daunting. You think, well, I know there's something that I'm supposed to be doing, but I have no idea what it is. And it's
Hmm.
a real daunting task. So getting your book would be a great first step. And
Definitely.
give yourself permission to think that way. Think about yourself. It's not selfish. I mean, I know a lot of people have said that, and I've said that a lot. It's not selfish. Let yourself think about what it is that, like you said, what would define freedom for you,
Hmm.
and then go from there as to the questions and read the book. So you also offer, you're going to, because you're kind of starting on this
Yeah.
journey, you're going to offer group programs, you're going to work with people one-on-one. Can you give us a taste of how you will work with people and maybe have you worked with someone yet and maybe give an idea of maybe a picture of your impact or what you want to be your impact?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways you can, as you mentioned, pick up the book. That's a great kind of go at your own pace, do it. There's a workbook that goes along with it that you can download off of my website and work through the exercises on your own. I'm also doing 8-week programs that are group coaching programs where we work through the whole system together as a group and do group coaching weekly. I'm only going to offer that a couple of times a year so I can take a set group of people through at once. And then if that's not available at the time that you're listening to this, then I'm also opening up one-on-one coaching where I can take you through the system in a more intimate environment with just the two of us.
Yeah. And again, you're focusing on women in midlife. We've talked a little bit about that. When did that get birth? When did you make that decision and why?
Well, it's been on my heart for a while. So it took me 4 years to write the book, in all honesty. I feel like the universe invited me to do that because this is a system I've used for myself for a long time. But for me, the real kick in the pants was that when I left my job, I say I was liberated from my job. I was fired from my job. And so, but I wasn't worried about it. To me, about a month previous to that, I was visiting Sarasota, Florida, and I took a seashell on the beach and wrote freedom in the sand and let the ocean waves carry that out. And so I said to myself, well, Tamara, this is exactly what you asked for. You asked for freedom, so don't complain, right? So I took it as an invitation for change. I got home from packing up my office, and the hard copy proof of my book was sitting on the doorstep. And I was like, okay, universe, you're cute. Um,
I love that because it's like it was literally telling you this is the opportunity of a
this is
lifetime.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and obviously I am big into astrology. Again, you don't have to know any astrology to read my book. But I did have an astrological reading, and my astrologer told me, that this you're having what's called your Chiron return, which is basically, for me, it's in my career sector, and you're being invited to make a totally different shift in how you earn money, attract money, what you perceive as a career. And so I'm just gonna go for it, because what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? If it doesn't work out, I go back into law. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love that. I love that tidbit of information too. Now, we can think that you've done all of this just on your own and with no support and all that kind of stuff. But truly, we all go through life, especially in the times when we're leaping out of our comfort zone and we get help.
Yeah.
Who is the one in your life that supported you and gave you the help that you really needed?
Oh, my husband's an absolute sweetheart. I mean, he's my number one cheerleader. And, I've come through some bad relationships in the past. Um, for the first time in my life, I feel like I can be exactly who I am with the person that I'm with. He sees me, he receives me, and he loves me no matter what he gets. But I've also had some great coaches. I do encourage people to get coaching. I never thought that I needed that before, and then I went for it. And a couple of years back, I worked with a lovely woman named Jane Isadora, and she has a program called Abundance Genius. And I worked through her program and finally rewired my brain around money, which resulted in me getting a 35% raise shortly after I took that
Oh my gosh,
program.
that's a lot. Okay, that was effective. We talk about an ROI.
Yeah, and so I mean, for me, it was life changing. You know, not every coach is right for every person, right? You need to find the right person for you, but I do encourage just going for it. We're pack animals by our design. We are not meant to go through things alone. So don't feel like you have to suffer alone or try to figure things out alone. Definitely having an outside perspective can be extremely helpful and give you kind of collapse time for you a little bit. We spend a lot of time spinning our wheels in the mud. You don't have to do that. Have somebody jump in there and help push you forward.
Yeah, and just as a coach, we have coaches. Coaches have coaches.
Yes. Yes.
I coach coaches. I mean, we're all we understand the value and that we know that we're worth the time and money to be able to have a coach. It is so valuable. Just think about your friends. I mean, if you're going through a tough time and you're constantly maybe complaining to them or talking to them about it. At some point, they're going to be like, okay, I have my own life. It's getting a little old. Whereas a coach is there to literally be there for you. They want you to talk about it. They want to
Yeah.
solve your problems. They want to reprogram in your brain and your unconscious mind. They want to reevaluate your behaviors, your decisions. They're there for you. So that's the value that the coaches bring. I'm glad you brought that up too. So, what else would you like to share about the book before we get to the point where you share your favorite quote, mantra, or positive affirmation?
Well, I'm not sure when this episode is going to air, but the release date for the book is October 21st. So if it's after that date, then you should be able to jump onto Amazon and get a copy of that. And otherwise, you can check out my website, tamaragardner.com, and choose your own adventure from there. All of the ways to find me are on the website.
Great. All right. So, what is your, as I ask all my guests, your favorite quote, mantra, or positive affirmation? Sharing that with our audience and maybe a little story about why you chose it.
I am worthy, I am enough, and I am loved. And that is an affirmation that I say to myself every day. You can look at yourself in the mirror and look yourself in the eye and say, I am worthy, I am enough, and I am loved, and allow that to resonate with you. I think it's something that we all don't hear enough and we all don't say to ourselves enough because oftentimes the inner dialogue is not very friendly. And saying this affirmation every day helps me rewire my brain and remind myself I'm worthy, I'm enough, and I'm loved.
That's perfect because within my business, I actually go into your unconscious mind, and I'll have to say, almost 100% of the people, when I get to their root cause of what it is that's keeping them stuck and what's causing that negative talk, it's one of those three things. It's either
Yep.
they love themselves, they don't feel worthy, and what was the other one? Oh, and that they're not enough.
Yeah.
A couple other things, but boy, those are top ones. So if you're telling yourself every day that pause and looking at yourself in the mirror, which some people have a little trouble with, actually looking at yourself in the mirror, it's so important. It's very empowering. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, everyone, you know how to get a hold of her. I will also have all the information underneath this particular podcast in the description. And just, I believe this is going to be released after your book. So please
Yeah.
get her book and start with that and then get in touch with her to find out about the group programs because I think those are great and working through those steps. And thank you for creating this program for a lot of other people that you're going to be able to help.
Thank you for having me today, Lisa.
Thank you. Everyone, remember to like, subscribe, comment, and if you have a leap story to tell, please get a hold of me. I'm at ladieswholeap.com. Have a great day. Thanks so much for listening or watching. Please subscribe to the Ladies Who Leap podcast to be notified of new episodes. And I would love to hear from you. Let me know what works, what doesn't, and if you have a story to tell, please reach out. Come join the Leap community at the Ladies Who Leap Club Facebook group. Remember, leaping out of your comfort zone is where the growth happens.